Hi, Rich Shea here.
Hi, also Rich Shea here.
My son's decided to join me for the unboxing of a new version of one of our favorite games, Uwe Rosenberg's Agricola. This new edition is part of a set of rolling out of the game. This is the 1 to 4 player streamlined version, one deck of cards. It's to be followed by a separate family game with no cards, and then a super mega deluxe set with apparently 7 decks of cards.
But that won't be out for a while, right?
By the end of the year, they'll all be out.
Wow.
That's what they're saying. Anyway, this is the first one. I just picked it up. It's by Mayfair. Now, Mayfair is the new publisher, and Mayfair intends to support the game by having some competition. Now, there are tournaments for Agricola in a few places. I'm actually the reigning New England regional champion by 1 food. It was a very close game.
Yeah, Dad.
But here's the new one. Okay,
You'll know that the box looks just like the old box, with the exception of the Mayfair emblem here. Otherwise, it looks
pretty much the same.
The back looks completely different.
The back is different, however. It says the reworked edition, so make sure you look for that. And 1 to 4 players. Okay, and still Mayfair and Lookout. Okay. Get this centered again. There we go. And open the box. Box noise. All right. So there's bags of stuff. We'll open them up later.
And that new box smell.
That's true. So here's the player pieces and the start player token. I like the round thing better. Richie's not a giant.
I like these guys. Sort of awkward, bow-legged, farmer hat-wearing guys.
But they look like farmers. Anyway.
Oh.
So they're in 4 different colors. And of course, the set comes with no round pieces and cubes. There's people and shaped things like before.
I like my farmers to be small cylinders. That's
and
why I
meeples,
playing Agricola.
cows and pigs and sheep. And stuff. Reed, clay, wood. And you won't confuse clay and wood anymore. They're different shapes. Grain, vegetables, and rocks.
The clay looked like bricks, of course. And the wood looked like windmills.
Well, they look like wood to me. But anyway.
Well, I mean, they are wood.
A bunch of
by
bags.
definition, they'll look like wood.
A scoring pad. I think it's the same scoring pad as before because the scoring hasn't changed. The
Well.
apparently the well card was incorrect. Please discard the version with 1 clay, 3 stone cost and replace it with the 3 stone, 1 wood. Yep, that would have been a mistake, but there we go. Fortunately, it's fixed
That's interesting.
right out of the
it looks
box.
like they printed them with the error, and then they discovered it before they boxed it all together.
Yep.
So these are interesting. They look like someone took a green Sharpie and just sort of drew numbers on the back of them.
That's true. Uh-oh, now I have to open this. Oh wait, it's got a tab. There it is. You can open it easily, if only you pay attention. Now, one of the things on the cards, let's see if we can hold this up. Yes, so you can see it. The Animal Tamer. It's actually, when you play this card, you get a wood and a grain. Instead of just 1 animal total, you can keep any 1 animal in each room of your house. Now, this is actually an upgrade from the former Animal Tamer, which I believe just lets you keep an animal in each room. People didn't use it very often. Cards that weren't used, Uwe has upgraded them a little bit. This one, you get a wood or a grain, which is pretty good. Also, 1 plus player. I'm not sure they had the symbol on there before. Okay, this is the A deck.
What does the pound sign mean?
And the pound sign means it's about developing your farm. The cards have different symbols on them, telling you a little bit about what they do.
That's interesting.
This one is about food, even though it has other stuff. Oh, you buy the things with food, so it's about...
buy them with food.
Right, it's the it's the grocer.
So does his...
I don't think he's changed. I'd have to check the exact stack. Okay, and this one is about food. Oh, maybe that's about getting resources. But anyways, so they are marked a little bit to tell you a little bit. And there are some things, like the Roughcaster, completely new card. Each time you build at least 1 clay room or renovate your house from clay to stone, you also get 3 food. So there are some cards completely new, some cards that are changed, some cards, like the Conservator, you can renovate exactly the same. And it's about a third. Now, I looked through them before, not in this one, in another copy, and I would say that definitely the occupations seem to be more even. Here's the...
you live in a stone house at the start of each
like
round.
the scholar.
You can play an occupation For
cost
an
of
occupation
one
cost
food
of one food.
or a minor improvement. Now, in the original game, it was two
But that's
food.
actually pretty ambiguously worded. It kind of looks like the cost is either one food or a minor improvement.
Yes, that's true. They did try,
So,
but that's worded the same way as before.
I still think this is very ambiguous. It looks like the cost could be either a food or a minor improvement.
You're right, but that's obviously not what they mean. Although you can't tell from reading it.
Obviously,
Now,
it is. See, does the tutor change? No, this.
no, the
exactly
tutor's the same because
He has
he
a
was
little
pretty useful.
point symbol there.
Yes, because that means he's all about scoring
He
points.
also has a B.
Animal that's
Hammer has
interesting.
an A.
An A and a B. Interesting. I guess I hadn't noticed that before, but there we go. I'll have to look in the rules and see what that means. Well, and then of course there are, things. The drinking trough, I think, is pretty much the same, cost of clay. There are new things like the young animal market, get a cattle, well, the sheep for cattle. It's renamed. They tried to rename things to make them less ambiguous. Here's rammed clay. You get a clay, and now you can use clay instead of wood to build fences.
Because if there's anything that's unambiguous, it's what rammed clay is. I imagine that it's clay that has rams living in it.
And
but I'm not sure.
other things. The hand plow, where you add 5 to the current round and put a field tile on it. The start of the round, you plow the field. So it's like a field for a wood that happens automatically in 5 turns.
Shouldn't it be a field plow, not a hand plow? I mean,
No,
they
it's
don't
a
usually
hand
plow
powered.
hands.
Well, it's a hand powered plow.
Oh.
But anyway, I'm not going to go through all the cards.
Then we get to this.
Then we get to the new cardboard, which
Wow,
I
they're
now have
puzzle
to
pieces.
open. They're puzzle cut, and probably edit me out doing this. Here we go. But the board materials are puzzle cut. And of course, let's get this other junk out of the way. And we'll, back in frame here, move the box out of the way. Alright, so this is the extension for 2 players, which basically is just the scoring. There isn't really an extension. For 1 or 2 players, you just have the scoring. For, I guess these are things.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know the difference between a copse and a grove.
One of them gets, well, to make things unambiguous, each of the spaces has a unique name. So the copse is 1 wood per turn, and the grove is 2 words per turn. And the reedstone food, which was called reedstone food by most players, is now the resource market. The hollow is the 2 clay.
Looks like it gives you 2 pieces of caramel.
So this is the 4-player side, okay, and then the other side here is the 3-player side. Getting an occupation is...
So the resource market is different. So even though they're trying to have a lack of ambiguity, the resource market here is still the variety sampler that we all know and love.
And the resource market there is, and I think there might be 1 card or occupation that actually refers to resource market. So now it would work in either game. So that's that. Over here, here's a new addition. This is called the side job. This can be added to any of the games, and it's an extra space where you can build a stable for 1 wood, and you can only build 1, or bake bread. It's not very useful, but to take some pressure off the game, we decided to add that.
So is that part of the standard game?
It's Uwe says it's
playing in a
optional.
tournament. Oh.
Well, no one knows yet. I
No
guess
one knows yet.
the tournament rules will be made up later. So here's the regular rest of the board, which folds out. It's not separate pieces. Can we get this all on camera? Maybe we have to widen out a little bit. There we go. All right. With the familiar rounds and a harvest symbol at the bottom in case you can't
Like the
remember.
mountain at the end.
Well, that's where the world ends. And then farm expansion, where you build the meeting place. That's taking the start player. Grain seeds, where you get the grain you want to plant or cook. Plow field is called farmland. Lessons, of course, there are 2 lessons things, but I think the reason is, let's do this here. The 2 lessons have different costs, but the cards refer to either one, so they have the same name on purpose.
Now we have more ambiguity, right?
Day labor, fishing, reed bank, clay pit, and forest. Where are the traveling players? Well, we looked at the 3-player, and the 4-player, and there are no traveling players. Oh, no, there they are.
Ah, good.
Sorry, the traveling players are here on the 4-player board.
Worried.
That's actually the difference between 3 and 4, I think.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4,
the
5,
resource
6.
market is different.
1, 2, 3. No, there's 2 things that are added. So the resource market is different
This
in
one's
the 3-player game.
Grove.
Hollow Grove, and it has
the
the cops, the extra 1 wood, and the traveling players for the 4-player game. All right. And then a bunch of Punch-Out. One thing that is
Put that on the
different,
Nintendo.
here's wooden rooms, and fields are on the back of wooden rooms, not stone houses. Don't be freaked out. Food,
I
and
think that actually makes a lot more sense.
actually it does. These 3 tokens are intended to be teaching aids. Uwe says to use those when you're teaching people the game for the first time or playing with children, where you suggest several moves that it might be wise for them to consider. Can't argue with him.
It looks
He's
like they
taught
had
it a
some
lot.
free space on the board and then decided to add those.
Well, something like that. But it's possibly a good idea. Let's close in a little bit again. Here's the major improvement board. It has pictures of the things. I don't think the major improvements have changed. Was the well 3 stone and a wood?
I think it was.
All right, and 2, 3, 4, 5 clay. 1 and 3, 3 and 1, and 2, 2 for those. So those are all the same. So the change for the resource thing. Now, okay, here's some clay rooms, and here's another one. Clay and stone are the same.
Clay and stone be on the same tiles.
One of the additions, there's a bunch of 5 food markers, so there's always going to be enough food, and they're just for food.
These look like saucers.
Yeah, they're bowls of food,
coffee.
I guess. There are some multiple markers that you can use in the game, and they're unambiguous. That's 4 cows, 4 pigs, 4 sheep,
I like
3
that better
wheat.
than the 4X before.
And the begging cards, which people don't use too often, are actually on the back of these. So
The
they're
back of
begging
what?
tokens. These markers have the begging things on the back.
So you don't want to get those flipped over if you...
No, not accidentally, right. Also, these are other optional things. In the 2-player game, you can add this. It's actually a single thing. When you put a person on it, you take one of these 4 actions, and then the other 3 are blocked for that turn. There were complaints, I guess, in the 2-player game that there's not enough wood in the game, so he added wood.
The 2-player game.
And the wood accumulates. The other ones do not. And the modest wish for children only works from
Wish
round
for
5.
children is now family
Family
expansion.
growth.
Family growth
Is modest wish for children is family growth with a room. I think it's called. I should go back to this. Oh no, it's on the cards.
The little hearts coming out of the chimney in the house.
Yes, desperate, and then there's I think urgent wish for children. That's where you don't need a room.
This game's safe for kids anymore.
Anyway, so well, that's what they call it in Caverna, by the way. Wish for children. In a 3 and 4-player game, there's this modest wish for children with room only. Yeah, and so for 3-player, he has the same thing. Only one of these actions can be used in a turn. And this one is the animal market. Sheep and a food, or pig, or a cow for a food. Okay? And then on the other side, they're just decorations.
If you want to add more mountain to your game.
So here's some more multiple things.
Yep.
And a bunch of food. And a bunch of begging tokens.
These flip over into food, so...
Right. And yes, food is just food. And then 1, 2, 3,
Werewolf into
4-player match, because this is only for 1 to 4 players.
So, this
and I guess
has the rooms in that fixed location.
yes, that's actually how the game starts, with the rooms in a fixed location. You don't get to decide where your rooms start. That's always been that way.
Before, you'd actually put the tiles on there, wouldn't you?
Yes. You can put the tiles on, but you don't have to, because it's always been printed with 2 wooden rooms.
Okay.
The backs of the minor oh no, these are the major improvements. They're in red, a little darker.
Let's see if these are the same.
Now,
so the well they messed up on, they made it cost 1 piece of caramel instead of whatever this acorn-looking thingy is.
Okay, but it's...
The 2 fireplaces are the same?
Same, yep.
Cooking Hearth,
the same. Or 5.
Baker's
now,
Workshop.
one of the things, let's look at the Baker's Workshop. It's the same cost, 2 basket makers. 2 stone,
Workshop.
2 reed, 2 victory points, but they've switched over to iconography. On the harvest, a reed to 3 food, and for scoring, 2, 4, or 5 reed get you 1, 2, or 3 points. They tried to switch over to iconography where possible, but and made it bigger. Like on the clay oven, the baked bread action is much bigger than on the original card. And the text fonts are bigger. But sometimes they just had to use text, especially explaining, things like occupations. They did try on some of them, I think, to use icons, but not so much on occupations. They were too complicated. But they did make the font bigger.
Making the font bigger is good.
Yes. Which gave them a little less space, so they tried to make things a little more concise.
I actually don't like the way this has overlapping symbols. I find it's harder to glance at this and see that that's 4 rather than some other number.
I agree, but it's pretty clear.
It's perfectly clear if you look at it, but I think that having them overlap makes it harder to glance at it and immediately detect the number. That could just be me.
Yep. Those are things that come down to taste. Alright, so we should get rid of the not correct well.
Well, it'll be a valuable collector's item someday.
Possibly. And you can see that, they've made, these are, I don't know, the pictures look bigger. But some of the names, grain utilization, instead of the action.
It's also possible to do this without ever touching grain, right? You could just sow vegetables.
Yes.
So it's pretty bad.
So, and or baked bread. Well, actually, they're called vegetable seeds now. But the major improvement, one thing, the pictures for improvement cards are, you have to not be colorblind. It's the dark for the major improvement, the orange-yellow for the minor improvement, and I think if we go back to the original thing and look at the lessons, it's yellow for the...
Those look like minor improvements.
Well, but they're yellow, not... See?
That's really...
Yeah, I agree.
The mustardy yellow and orange are...
With the red outline, yeah.
That's pretty poorly done.
So, and then... The two quarries have slightly different names. The Western Quarry, House Redevelopment, there we go. You can get a grant. The Pig Market, Vegetable Seeds, and the Eastern Quarry. So the two quarries are slightly different. Oh, and there's the Urgent Wish for Children, even without a room. And it shows a picture of a little guy, but there aren't any little guys.
And there are hearts that are coming out of the forest rather than the house.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Cultivation, plow a field and sow, and the other development with build fences. So that's the game itself. In the instructions, which we have here, the instructions are quite clear. I read them in another open copy that I saw. Lots of pictures still, using the new stuff. He explains how everything works. There's lots of examples on how your form could look, how the scoring looks by example. But this is the course of play, now the rules, lots of notes by Uwe about where to go for more stuff inside the rules, how he would do it, details on cultivation and the harvest. So this one is about playing the game, and it's pretty much the rules, and there's a solo game in here, and which components are good and which aren't, some details on scoring. Then we have the appendix. The appendix is interesting. In one, it talks about how Uwe teaches the game. Okay, he explains how he teaches it, which is great, because he expects you to be teaching this game to everybody, because now it's the new, even more popular version of Agricola. And a beginner's variant without hand cards, but you're not meant to play that way. You're supposed to buy the family game later.
How does it differ from the family game? It looks like the beginner's variant without hand cards.
It's not, remember,
in
the family game, there's a separate add-on with different housing things. So his thing is just leave out the cards, and on the meeting place, in the meeting place, you put a food per round, because you're not going to get to play a minor improvement because there aren't any, and you just don't use the space that's the lesson spaces, right? He talks about setting up how to use the replenishing thing, which I don't think he explained before, but everybody's figured it out. A lot of explanations of how to read the cards, what the different tiny card symbols mean and how they work, how he explains things, the course of play, how specifics about players, animals, cultivating, farming, and the farmyard boards. The action space is explained in detail. types of goods. So these has very specific rules. You almost don't need just to play the game, but you'll eventually refer to it when you're scratching your head over something. He also has variants. Let's go over here. Drafting. He basically goes through every kind of drafting he's ever heard of. For tournament play, we use the 7 cards, and then you take one and pass to the left, and then you, for the occupations, then for the minor improvements, you do the same thing, but pass to the right. But there are other quicker ones. Some people find that too time-consuming.
I don't like the quicker ones. I think that's one of the most interesting parts of the game.
I agree. But he also has the 7+7 pass to the left that the iOS application uses, and some other variations, quick drafting, and a version where you have some cards and you add more cards as the game goes on, which would be interesting ways to play. A team one, and he describes some house rules that other people have come up with, and a variation that he's considered but didn't add to the full rules to make it more challenging. I don't know why I'd want to make it more challenging.
It's not challenging enough. It's Agricola.
There are multiplayer campaign games. I didn't read that yet. Solo game. Details on costs. Some credits. Some details on scoring, in case you have some questions there. And that's pretty much it. The new rules are very comprehensive. Very well written. I mean, I think Uwe's taken advantage of the things he learned when the original game came out, which had some issues, largely interactions, because there were so many cards. There were far fewer cards here. He's tried to make the cards more balanced so that none of the cards are losers and none of the cards are overpowered. Although I still think that he changed the name of it to, let's see if I can find it here, my friend Rob's favorite, which is, and of course it's going to be the Carpenter's Parlor, formerly the Axe. Wooden rooms cost 2 wood and 2 reed.
I think this card is going to be probably something that needs to be banned at some point. The Caravan's my pick for an overpowered card. It just lets you get an extra person out more quickly for a relatively low cost.
But early in the game, 3 wood and 3 food is not a low cost.
It's a low cost for having an extra worker.
Well, it might well be.
How many turns do you need for that worker to make up for that?
2.
Exactly.
Maybe 3.
And as a minor improvement, that doesn't even cost you a full action.
But remember, the other thing that you don't get is you haven't got another room yet. Although you might get that later. You also don't get that extra minor improvement early in the game. I personally think that the extra minor improvements for your first few people, when you have to have a room, accelerates the game for players a lot.
I think it's tough, though, because you're most strapped for resources then because you're quickly scrambling. It also lets you jump the line in terms of waiting to get the space to build your farm, right? So you can bypass having to use the expand my farm space as an action. Well,
the only way to find out is to start playing it a bunch.
I guess so.
Which I guess we'll be doing soon. And we look forward to hearing about Mayfair's efforts to organize play of Agricola. I love playing it as a competitive game. It's how I learned to play a lot better by being beaten by people who are better than me. And it really pushed me to get better at playing the game, like in any competitive event. And honestly, the really good players in Agricola will teach you a lot really quickly. You won't be winning any games then, but you'll be learning.
That's true.
So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing. This one went on a little longer than some of the others because, well,
there's a lot here.
There was a lot here, a lot to go over. So again, thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in.